Hey, Janet,
Steve, what's up?
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Rumor has it that you're starting your own show.
You know.
Really? Let me get this straight. You go on my show, Kick Unhealthy Relationships to the Curb, and then 2 weeks later you start your own show? How does that
Yeah,
work?
I don't know. Somebody coerced me.
I coerce you. But you know what? It's a really cool thing. When you were on with Stephanie and I, you had some really great connections that you made in that first hour that you were on our network. And I'm so happy and thankful that you're taking a chance to be on the network, but to really do what you do best is connecting with others, is igniting their lives. And talk about why you want to do your own show.
Well, for me, it's connecting with people and teaching them about coaching and what I do. And connection for me is huge. Support for me is because I've had so much support in the past couple of years for myself. It just feels so natural to me to support other people.
Mhm. And it comes natural to you. And I think in this day and age, during this pandemic, so many people are isolated or anxiety ridden or polarized for different things. How do you break that barrier down? How do you break those walls down for those folks that are trapped, within the challenges of life right now?
So one of the things I do, I got into the habit of sending little videos out within Instagram and Facebook, just because I feel that sometimes people need a little inspiration or something that they can do to maybe change their mindset or attitude, or just a hint or a tip to make their day a little bit better.
Those videos are great, and we're all going through some difficult times, and all of our lives are a journey, right? And I don't know if you're going through a difficult time or not, but when we have difficult moments or difficult days, how do we put that aside to help others, but to kind of cope with it and put a smile on our face and move forward? Is there a secret to what you do to get through each day?
So for myself, I've learned about vision, like having a vision for my life and a vision for what I want to create in the world. So what I do is before I walk out of the house or wherever I'm at, I set an intention of what I want to portray in the world. So for myself, I feel that, one thing I mentioned on the last show is I feel that people have an invisible sign on their forehead saying, make me feel important. So when I put my problems or challenges to the side and think about what can I do for somebody else, I feel like when I'm in service to other people, I just feel better about myself. So it just like raises the collective vibration in the world, I feel.
That's terrific. And ignite your life. How'd you come up with that term and the name of the show, which you'll be here every Wednesday night, right, from 7 to 8 p.m.
Mhm.
for forever now. So we're so thankful that you joined our network. But talk about the name of your show.
So when I was doing my branding, I have a gentleman that did my branding and my logo and whatnot for me. And when we did that, we were just talking it out and hashing it out. And I just always felt like I wanted to ignite a spark in somebody, because I feel that if somebody can have a little spark in their life, in their mindset, change their mindset and ignite a thought maybe in their head or mind, it could mean the difference of changing their day, life, week, whatever.
Right. I mean, the word ignite in itself, it's a catalyst word. It's kind of a word that it's a starter. Ignite, quickly change things, pivot. And we all had to pivot during this pandemic, and I'm sure you have as well. But the message that you want to get across to others is how do other people pivot during difficult times, correct?
Correct.
How do you do that?
It's being intentional about a mindset. So there's days I wallow in my, we're human, right? So there's days I wallow in my stuff, but then there's days I just say, I don't, I choose not to do that anymore, because
Right.
it doesn't feel empowering when I sit and wallow in my stuff. So one thing I've learned is when I am kind of stuck in my head, I journal and I get my feelings out and I kind of feel them. And then it kind of helps me move on with my day.
Mhm. And when you put these little videos together, are they premeditated or they kind of come off the cuff? I mean, how do you do that? Because they're really cool, and you will see later in the show that it's not always serious. You're kind of fun loving getting that message across. How do these videos come to mind when you do them?
I call them my shower thoughts. Or just, I'll be somewhere and I'll think of something. I tend to do them in the car a lot, but now that I'm in Florida, I'm by myself and my daughters are not in the house with me. I'm by myself, so I can do some here. I like to do some funny ones. I love Snapchat filters for some reason. They have some funny, hilarious ones. And I feel that there's a light, funny side to me, and I relate to things that are really funny. So when I post one in a lighter side, I feel like sometimes the message could be serious or important, but somebody will take it as a lighter note because they see it in a funny way.
So wait a minute. You're not in New York. You're in Florida?
Right now, yes.
So you're not in this 20-degree weather that we're having? So not only do you come on my show, you start your own show, you're bragging that you're in Florida. Wow.
I rented a place for the winter.
What a start you're off to, Janet.
Not a bad life.
Not a bad life. But explain to our viewers out there, our new viewers or people that know you, talk about what you feel that you want to get across in the shows in the upcoming weeks.
For me, the goal for people is to feel peace in their heart and their mind. My goal is to teach people how to feel comfortable in their own skin, peaceful in their mind. I call myself like a heart-centered coach. It's I connect people on a heart level. So I can look at somebody's face. I can read if there's a sort of a pain in their heart. So it's just connecting with somebody and being a generous listener for them.
That's really well said. So it seems like in the shows that you are upcoming, that you're going to have guests on. You're going to invite them and talk about their journeys as well and how they could make this better world a better place too. Correct?
Correct. So some of the other people so Joe that's on tonight has been my coach for almost 11 years. We've been working together. I call him my brother from another mother. He's become not only a coach, a friend, like a brother to me. He just has my back all the time. And I feel like he's been the catalyst for myself to fuel my coaching career. And grateful. And so the other people that I have coming on are people that I've worked with, other different modalities of coaching, some of them. And so I'll be having some of them on just to show different styles of coaching and different modalities that people might be looking for.
Oh, so you're kicking me off the show. Is that what's going on here?
I can if you want to go.
Wow. You already have a guest, so you don't need me anymore.
I do.
You got this, Janet, right? You got this.
I do.
Right?
Thank you.
Well, Janet, we're so very happy that you chose the Chapters Network here. We're a nonprofit organization, Chapters Community Support Services, and what we do is pay it forward and have a platform for others to pay it forward. We're advocates for advocates, and when you came on board, we were all excited here at the network because the energy that you provide is second to none. So I'm excited to hear your show tonight and in weeks to come. So Janet, welcome, and tell Joseph I said hi and have a great show.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you.
All right. Take care. Have a good show.
Bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. So I'm excited for my first show. And I have my guest, my brother from another mother, as I call him, Joe Tedesco, that's going to be coming on as my guest. And I'm excited to welcome him. So welcome, Joe. That's my buddy, Joe.
Hello!
I'm so excited you're here.
Oh, we're deflowered. Yes, this is your first show. I'm very honored to be here with you.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
I'm so excited.
How was your start? Did you get the nerves out?
I did.
A little bit. Good. Good.
Still have a little butterflies, of course.
Of course. It's new. It's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm honored to be here with you, sweet. And celebration to Steve, for what he does and the nonprofits that he's promoting. I thoroughly support anybody that's up to creating something greater than their individual self. I really stand and support Steve.
Isn't it amazing?
It's great. It's a wonderful thing he's doing.
It is. Some of the things that I've seen, I've gone through his, he's got a Facebook group, and I've gone and watched some of the other shows, and the people that he has on just are doing really amazing things and doing great things for the world, the collective.
Just like you. Just like you.
And you.
All right. So what do we want to talk about today?
So, as I call Joe Tedesco, I call him Sunshine. He's my sunshine. That's his nickname, because he brings sunshine to my heart. So, Joe, I want to ask you, so what was the catalyst in your coaching career? Like, what had you decide to become a coach? Where was the direction from the beginning?
The direction from the beginning is that my whole life, for my adult life, I found that where I excelled most for me personally, personal fulfillment, was when I was extending myself beyond my individual needs and wants. And when I began to support people in different types of, teaching them, from whether how to run a chainsaw or how to, do anything in their life, it naturally kind of progressed into, I noticed that people were thinking in specific ways, and those ways were kind of limiting. And I didn't have the schools or the technology or the information to help people past their blocks. I could see that people would perform to a certain level, but they wouldn't reach to their peak potential because of the mindsets that they were operating from. So I spent years researching and studying and getting certifications and accreditations and all kinds of different mindset trainings, which is not therapy, it's coaching. So we're professional coaches. And so coaching is a distinction from therapy. But as the more I progressed, I started working with professional athletes and business owners and stuff like this, and started in the consulting level first. So I would be a consultant, and again, I would notice and experience people's blocks in their mindsets or their attitudes. So in wanting to improve or help them in their performance or their results, wanting results, I had to learn what mindsets were, what attitudes were, and how to work with people in examining them, bringing them up and to the surface, and then being able to modify or shift ones that were not effective for them, keeping the ones that worked, but then also shifting the ones that were ineffective. So my journey began basically as a hobby in the beginning, but then it quickly evolved into, because I was effective at it and I was good at it, so I would keep getting these referrals, and then eventually my business transitioned from what I did before into full-time coaching. And I haven't left since. It's been something I thoroughly enjoy doing. It is very passionate for me to inspire, motivate, and help people transform their lives.
Yeah. I mean, just the way you describe that, especially at the beginning that you started out, it was more like results driven, correct?
Yeah, it was for the beginning. Most people, when they think of a coach, typically is they're thinking about how can I generate a specific result. Okay, they have a goal or they have a vision in mind. With a company, it's typically a vision statement or a mission statement, and they want to achieve or reach a certain level of empirical result, something you can measure, and that excites me because I have an analytic mindset, and so I have the ability to forward think and extrapolate back, and that's a natural thing for me to do. But what I learned was that you can give somebody all the mechanical tools of how to reach a certain point, a goal, but their mindset it eventually will start to show their strengths and their weaknesses.
Yeah. So once I would assume it was in a listening. So you would hear something that would allow you to realize that there was a block, and then you'd kind of go into that.
Well, yeah, that's one of the primary skill sets of a good coach. Is a good coach typically is the best listener you know, and they're not listening from a correction point of view. They're listening from an awareness. They're like a great mirror to you. So when you're speaking, or you may be gesticulating, or you may be doing all kinds of things, and the coach can give you some feedback about what they're hearing and what they're listening to, and say, hey, that sounds like you mean this, or that sounds like you're thinking like that. And how does that sound for you? And so you're listening and you're hearing your client or your friend or whomever in a way that probably most other people don't listen to them.
Exactly. I also feel that for myself, as in my learning in coaching, sometimes it's what they're not saying, right?
Yes.
So sometimes,
another...
right? So sometimes you could see a body language, or
Sure.
Right?
Sure, of course. These are all, as you get experienced in this work, you pick up subtleties over the years. And the more experience and the more wisdom you have, and the more patterns you start to see with people, you can help people out when you start to see that pattern repeating itself. You might be in suggestive mind, but again, I want to keep repeating back. It's all about mindset. What is a mindset? That's something we might want to even just, the listener might want, well, what is this? He keeps talking about this thing called a mindset. What is that? Well, a mindset is a set of beliefs that are firmly fixed in either our conscious mind or our unconscious mind. And for example, my hand would, like, say, become the filter at which I see through these mindsets. And I project out into the world all the meaning that the world has to me, including my results and including my visions, my dreams, my goals. So the meaning of your life and the experience of your life is determined by the mindsets you hold. So it's both the known mindsets, which are, again, our beliefs, and the unknown ones, which are the unconscious beliefs. So we get to look at these, we get to bring these up. So a good coaching session might be for you to really look at your belief systems around, say, money, a time conversation that you don't have enough time, a health block, maybe a weight block that you might be having. There might very well be a mindset that you're working and running that you don't even know you're running. And you hit that block in, say, your workouts, or you hit that block in your enrollment if you're in multi-level marketing, for example. These things will start to show themselves eventually in your performance and in your results when you hit that wall. So a good coach is going to help you uncover those belief systems that you might be operating from.
Right. So, like, for us working together, Joe, in the past, right? I remember way at the beginning, it was breaking through fears.
Yes.
And I didn't even know fears that I had.
Right.
I wasn't even aware of them until we would just be having a conversation, right? And I would say something like, remember the time when I talked about not knowing how to swim? And it just came up as, you saw the pool in the background. You saw my pool. We were on a FaceTime, and you said, you must enjoy your pool. And I said, no, I don't. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was like 9 years ago. And you said, you must enjoy your pool. And I said, no, I don't. I just sit by the pool. And you said, why is that? I said, I don't know how to swim. And it was a back and forth. Well, do you want to know how to swim? And what's the swimming for? And you asked me, what was the swimming for? So for myself, the swimming wasn't for the swimming. The swimming was for the joining in with, my daughters going to the beach and not feeling like I could go in the water. And I wanted to learn how to paddleboard and all these. It was the fear was holding me back, but it made me feel like I was missing out. And then it made me want to do it, even though it was scary.
Right. And what we did was, for you as an example, is that we had to look at what you were really afraid of. Because it really wasn't about swimming. And once we unpacked, like, really what this resistance to learning how to swim would be about, okay, and then presenting it in a way as an opportunity, rather than say a challenge. We're going to challenge Janet to overcome this fear, or we're going to challenge this client to overcome the fear. A good coach can present an opportunity, right, based on a vision or a mission, right? So we connected you to what you would want that would be valuable, that if you had no fear of, say, swimming. Okay. Then we looked at it and said, well, if this is what you want this connection, you want these shared experiences with your children and your family, and you might have to look at the fear that you're protecting and really what it's about. There are core foundational beliefs with every fear that we have. Every fear we run isn't really about the fear itself. It's about supporting thoughts that hold that fear up. And then you look through that idea, that belief, right? But what you're really looking through is not the fear itself, it's the beliefs that support that fear. So when you look at them and then you take little steps, whether it's through action or it's through different ways of thinking, right? You can now begin to move through the fear, because all fears, truly, at the end of the day, and this is an assertion and a very powerful statement, all fears have no power until you give them the power. So coaching can be a lot about this risk-taking environment. It seems risky to go toward a fear, but moving toward a fear with a new set of beliefs that you're going to practice as you approach it, the fears begin to dissolve. They seem to fade away, because a fear is only based in belief. If you don't have the belief anymore, what would you be afraid of?
Right.
That's empowerment. That's the kind of coaching I do. I do empowerment coaching. There's all different kinds of coaching out there in the world, and all different styles of coaches that are in the world. And my expertise is mindset and empowerment coaching. So we look at those beliefs and then we replace them. It's really about replacement. And then we apply the replacement, and you then take action to reflect the replaced thought. Through that action, right, you learn, you build confidence, you build a sense of safety or accomplishment, and then the fear eventually just dissolves away.
Exactly. And even though sometimes it'll show back up and it'll like rear its little head a little bit,
Sure.
And then it's just learning how to shift and have little tools, I call them, right? We have the tools to say, wow, I choose to look at that differently, or I can choose to look at, and also for myself, one other thing you've taught me is always coming from a place of responsibility. That never made sense to me at first. Like, it took me a while to understand that I am responsible for every experience in my life. And it's not blame or credit to somebody else.
That's correct. That's one of the, I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of times when people hear the word responsibility, right, they hear blame. I'm to blame, or they hear credit, or if I'm responsible, I take the credit for that, right? So this is not about that kind of blame or credit responsibility. This is about authorship. Authorship. Now, that means you're the author of your life. Now, just even looking at the word responsibility itself, responsibility is the ability to respond. So it's an empowerment stand versus a blame or credit stand. So when in this type of coaching that I work with, it's not about blaming or crediting someone, right? It's about taking authorship of your life. And in authorship, just like when you author a book, right, you are the writer of the characters and the stories and the contents and the images that you're trying to convey to the reader, right? So we're trying to re-author our mindsets. So we have to take responsibility for the ones we have authored. And that means that you have to take an honest look at the ones. That's what a coach can help you do, is be a safe environment for you to look at those beliefs with no judgment, just assessment. Judgment is a right? Assessment is just, it is what it is. So once you have that state of mind where you're able to look at your belief systems, then you can keep what works and shift and modify what doesn't work, and then go out and practice it and let it be your teaching. But the one thing that being responsible eliminates immediately, first, right out of the gate, is that when you take authorship of your life, you are no longer in the victim consciousness. You no longer operate from victim mentality, which is powerlessness. Now, it doesn't mean that there isn't any power in a victim. Victims can have a lot of power, but is it the kind of power that you say you want to generate the results you want to keep moving forward? And I think most would agree that being a victim doesn't get you where you want to be, per se. I mean, again, that's all dependent upon what the person's dream, visions, and goals are. But the victim mentality is out the door at that point when you're taking full responsibility. That's a very, very powerful place to stand from. And it's way higher in efficacy to be in an empowered stand than a reactive stand. So what this coaching can do, and the coaching that I know you've been trained in and that I teach, is that you want to move into your life from an empowered stand, an authorship stand, a responsibility stand, because then you become the active creator of what it is you say that you want to create in your life, and whether it's results or feelings in your own self. So it's almost imperative to move through these fears and these blocks and these belief systems in order to get to where you say you want to go, especially if you hit a block, especially if you hit stagnation. That's what a coach can be really, really helpful.
Yes. And, Joe, what I've learned even too is like sometimes when you're going through these coaching sessions, you can get emotional through it, right? Like there's times you get emotional because it's not like you're coming at me or at the person, but it feels like, I call it poking the bear. You're poking the bear at that moment. And it's like, oh, you're touching a wound that you didn't even know you had.
Yes.
Until you touch it and you hit it. And then you're like, sometimes it hurts and it stings. Yeah. But then it takes that second, the sting. And I used to hate the sting. I used to hate the sting.
Yeah. It's a vulnerability. It's a vulnerability. It's a vulnerability that we all get to access. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing about, coaching, is that we're asking our clients to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. We're asking our clients to be honest, transparent, and safe, right? We're that safe environment for you to really look at those things that you may not even know you're running yourself. And the coach can provide an environment for you to maybe safely look at something that you've buried away for a long time, that you've buried away and you don't want to look at, but that thought is still running you. That belief is still running you. And so what a coach can do is they can be a very gentle, loving space to hear you in a way, a different way than the world would say, maybe judge you for that, or that a family member may not accept you for. Okay. And be that space where you can begin to look at it and go, what has me continue to believe and honor that belief? What has me decide that is a valuable thought to keep and then run my life through? So if you want to have a shift or a change in your life, you have to be willing to look at your core beliefs. Because if you don't, then you're just going to keep getting the same result over and over again. And that's not a bad thing, but if you want a different result in your life, you have to look at your beliefs. You have to look at your commitments. You have to look at your actions and your disciplines. And that is an honest look. How do you spend your time? Who do you spend your time with? What is it you do in your time? And what are the beliefs that you hold as you do them? And when you start reflecting these back to a client through just conversation like we're having right now, the coach may go, I just noticed something. I just heard something. Did you hear it? May I repeat that back to you? It's like, what I heard you say was, and then you repeat it. How many times have you done work with a client, or I've worked with you, and you're like, did you hear what you just said? And that, like, I've never heard me say, I've never heard it reflected that way. And now you're at what's called the choice point. You get to choose now. Is that something that works for you? Is that something that doesn't work for you? Do you think that that's something that you could shift or modify or adjust? And if so, what would it be that would be more effective to what you say you're up to creating? So, for example, let's talk about one for just a second. A very common one, money, right? The money conversation, right? So a lot of people have a money conversation. There isn't enough, right? It doesn't grow on trees. It's a time versus, there's a belief around money and how it's made, how it's earned, how it's spent, what it's for, what it's good, is it bad, right? Well, one of the common ones is money is the root of all evil. Ever heard that one before?
I have.
Right. So is that necessarily true, or is it true for you? Do you want it to be true for you? Or what if money wasn't the root of all evil? What would you want money to be for you? Because if you're working toward, and let's say, as an example, multi-level marketing. I work with a lot of multi-level marketing business owners. And in that realm is when you start growing that business and you start hitting the wall where you start making some money and you're running a narrative behind you that you don't even know that is money's evil. And the more money you get, the rich people are all XYZ. And you could have a negative narrative around rich people. And that might be limiting you in your ability to make more money. You might have hit the plateau based on your belief system. So you might have to look and examine and really assess the value of money being the root of all evil might be blocking you from making more money, which then sets up your attitude. See, a lot of things that a thing that a lot of coaches don't look at is attitude with a client. It's very important to look at and check in with our attitudes. And so what is an attitude? Well, an attitude is a way of thinking that motivates or inspires our actions. Think about that a second. If I have an attitude toward money, that's an unconscious thought about money. Money is bad, money is dirty, money is evil, right? And now I'm moving into my world trying to generate money, but I hit the wall because I am unconsciously blocking success. This happens in weight loss. A lot of people hit the weight loss, the wall. They hit the wall and they work out and they work out and they work out and they work and they can't lose the weight. And so then they shift what they do. They go to a different trainer, they go to a different program, they have a little bit of result and then they hit the wall again. Or they might go backwards. Okay. Another example of this is lottery winners. People who win the lottery, right? So they get this sudden massive influx of cash and freedom and choices that come to them from winning a lottery. Do you know the percentage of people that are worse off financially after 5 years of winning a large lottery winning?
It's a pretty big number, right, Joe?
Yeah, it's a lot.
If I was to guess, I would say like 90%.
Yeah, 87%. They're worse off than before winning the lottery. Now, why is that? You get this sudden influx of money. Yeah, it's their mindset. In their mindset, the money doesn't overcome a mindset. What money does is it amplifies the mindsets that you have. So when you're operating and you receive this sudden influx of money, or you start losing the weight and reaching your goal, you might be running a mindset, a belief that skinny people are, or I only received the love and attention when I was heavy. And you might have to look at that belief. And so for money, as an example, you going back to that one, you might have to redo and rewrite, reauthor your beliefs around money. And success. Some people have a fear of success and they don't even know why. So a good coach can help you look at those core belief systems that you may not even know you're running. A company, when I work for companies, there's a culture within the company as well. And we have to look at with managers and middle managers and upper managers about what their belief systems are around the product or service or the industry that they're in, and maybe see that's how they're treating their customers. Maybe that's how they're treating their sales team. And then they get to look at it and then maybe modify their mission and vision statements to the new mindset that they want to operate on.
Yeah. Joe, when you're talking about especially the money conversation, right? So like for myself, I remember my dad passed away when I was very young. He passed away when I was 8. And before that, so my mom wasn't really set up financially. So my mom said to me, you have to be able to take care of yourself. You have to be able to take care of yourself and you have to be able to make your own money and be independent. But I also remember from before my dad even passed away, my dad had said something to my mom, like I was going to be successful. There was something about me. I remember that. Like, I don't remember what I ate for lunch yesterday, but I remember that. It was like it's literally in my. It's literally stuck in my body. I can remember him saying that. So
Sure.
I feel, and I tell the story all the time. I feel like money chases me. So like for me, my conversation, even when like money isn't good in that moment, like there might be a time I might be down financially or something. I always have the mindset that money chases me.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden I'll get a check in the mail for like $1,100. Don't like a refund for something. And money comes from like different avenues.
Sure.
Because I believe that my belief is that money chases me.
Yeah, you're starting to open a door into some. I don't know how our audience is ready for some of this, but there's a conversation. It's very popular right now, and it's been popular for about 10, 15 years. Is the New Age stance or the metaphysical stance or universal law stance of say energetic principles, the law of attraction, the law of vibration, the law of attraction, vibration, frequency, and harmony. Okay, so these are the vibrational laws that. Again, whether you believe it or not, like everything here is a vibration. Everything here resonates at a certain frequency. Whether it's this body that resonates at a certain frequency, this table that I'm sitting at resonates at a certain frequency. Everything resonates at a certain frequency. Okay. So what does it mean to vibrate? Right. Well, that means to go back and forth. Well, without getting too long into this, because I can do a 3-day, 4-day workshop on this stuff, and I have, but energy. You got to think about, well, what activates energy? What moves energy around in this 3-dimensional world?
It's the mind.
Yeah, well, mind is the environment, okay? But thought is the activating agent. So it's thinking that manipulates or moves energy. Now, look around in your environment. So if you're an audience member, you're watching this live or on tape or recording, whatever, look around your room that you're in right now. Just look around. Look at the objects. Look at the refrigerators and the carpets and the floors and the cabinets and the whatever you got. Just look around. And I'd like you to point something out in the room that's in form that first wasn't a thought.
Nothing. Correct.
Nothing. There's no thing that is not a thought first. And somebody would say, well, what about a tree? Right? Well, think about a tree. Is the DNA of the seed is the thought, the outward picture of the finalized version. It's dormant. And so with the right environment, that thought now begins to express itself. So whether it's an inanimate object or an animate object, it's all based in thought. It's an idea. So thoughts are ideas. So the idea of an acorn, right, is a mighty oak. And the thought of that, a thought of, say, refrigeration in a person's mind, keeping food longer, generated the refrigerator. So it was thought that generated that. So your life is a series of thoughts that you're seeing its outward picture. We call these your results. All your results are your thoughts seen. So energy is literally being the master of your thinking. When people coach with me, I don't teach them what to think. I teach them how to think. And then let that person be the author or the magician of their own life through their thinking. So I teach people to be way more effective thinkers as a how to think rather than what to do or what to think. I'm not a consultant. I'm a mindset coach. So to me, my personal belief is that if I can teach or how to think, you're infinitely more impactful and effective in not only your personal life, but in the world if you know how to think effectively.
Right. And it's also, so for myself, when I think like that or change my thoughts, I feel like collectively I can raise the vibration in the world a little bit. Like I said when I was on the last show, a story that is kind of the catalyst for how I run my life is the starfish story. throwing, the little boys walking along the beach,
Right.
and somebody comes along and says, you can't make a difference for all the starfish that are on, lying on the beach. And he throws one into the ocean and says, I made a difference for that one. So
That's right.
for myself in coaching, it's, if I can change my vibration for myself and then pay that forward in coaching. And like for myself, Joe, you and I've talked about this a million times. Coaching doesn't necessarily mean having a client a one-on-one. It could
Right.
be in the grocery store.
That's
It could
right.
be, so today I went to the grocery store, ran there for a little bit, and it was just a conversation with somebody that I was talking to that was the checkout person. And then I came back, throw my groceries in, and I had 2 hours before I had to be on here, and I had nothing else to do. I just felt like chilling for a little bit. I went down by the pool, and it was a little bit cloudy out, and nobody was down there except this couple that live in my development here. And we had this whole conversation about pandemic, and they were asking me about being vaccinated. We just talked, and we had different conversations.
Sure.
And it wasn't judgment. It was like they heard me a little bit differently, and I heard them a little bit differently, and they were in their 80s, and I was fascinated by them, and they were fascinated by me. And it was just, I felt like I was coaching without coaching, and they didn't even know it was conversation.
You're describing what's called the butterfly effect. The butterfly effect is if a butterfly flaps its wings on the African plains, it has an effect on the world around it, and it will affect the weather patterns, say in the United States. And we can show that everything and everyone is connected. Mm-hmm. So there's a great movement about transforming the world and making the world a better place, which I absolutely support. And what typically people will do is they will go out and they will join a cause, or they will join an event, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, and I encourage that. But what I pose to people is that if you begin to work at the inner core of your own self, and you begin to really affect your way of being and your own personal responsibility for your own life, your own individual existence, not to say you're separate from anyone else, but for example, like when the mask drops in the airplane, the instructions are to put your mask on first. You take care of yourself first so that you can take care of others. It's not a selfish, exclusionary act. It's an act where you do for yourself before you can effectively and affectively help others. So I stand on the platform that if you help yourself first in your mindsets, that when you go out into the world, you will be that much more impactful and effective for people if you are coming from, say, a healed mind, a peaceful mind, a clear mind. You can begin to be now what's called the context for the content of the world to shift. So that the world will shift when the individuals within it shift. It's very similar to the mistake I see, in my opinion, again, is that it's like when on a movie screen. So if you don't like the movie, the most insane thing for you to do is to walk up and change the screen. To change and paint images all over the screen because you don't like what you see on the screen. You have to go back to the projector and the film. And your life starts with you. You are the projector in your life. And the film is the thoughts in your mind that you then project out onto the screen of your life. So this is the amazing thing about mindset work, is that your life and your world can instantly shift with a change of mind. It's the adage that everything in your life will change and nothing changes. It's your thought about it that made it shift. Because this world is in a constant state of flux. It's in a constant state of movement and decay and expansion, right? But the one thing that you have authority over and authorship over in that world of chaos is the way you see and you interact and you project onto it. You cannot be a victim until you say you're a victim. no matter what the circumstance. I had $20,000 in tools stolen out of my house one time about 15 years ago. And they eventually ended up catching the guy, and we went to court. And I was the witness with the witness. And the judge, toward the end, when they made him guilty and he was found guilty, and now may we have the victim stand up and address, his experience for the court and for the and they said, will the victim please stand? Is there a Mr. Joseph Tedesco in the room? I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. Well, I called you. Would you please stand? I go, I'll be happy to stand. But my request is you don't call me a victim. I'm not a victim. I don't choose to be a victim to this. I have my responsibility for the way I locked my tools up, secured them, whatever. And he played his part and I played my part. But I don't align with victim mentality. And as a matter of fact, that's what I offered. I offered to be a mentor to the kid instead of jail time. I said I'd be happy to not be addressed as a victim, considered a victim. And as a matter of fact, I'd like to offer this as an opportunity for him. Now that he's gotten caught, I don't want to see him punished. I'd like to see him empowered so he wouldn't make this decision again, doesn't feel he needs to make this decision again that can affect people's lives. I jokingly said he happened to rob the right person. But I'd like to offer him and the court, instead of jail time, mentorship. And I will personally mentor him.
And?
It was declined, but nonetheless, the point of the story is I'm not a victim. The victim can hold me back. The victim can make me lose sleep at night. The victim can make me bitter and angry and maybe prejudiced against a culture. No, I choose not to be a victim. Now, some people would say, well, that you might be, people walk all over you. And no, they don't. No, how I feel is my responsibility. No one can take my empowerment away from me. I can give it away, but no one can take it from me. And that is a very powerful place to stand. We have a lot of people in the world right now that are very easily offended, and their feelings get hurt, and then they get driven by their feelings, and then they wonder why they don't have the life that they want to have. And it's not to say discount your feelings. It says be aware that your feelings are pointing to something, some kind of belief, some kind of maybe an insecurity, maybe some kind of limiting thought that is holding you back, because the world is not holding you back. There's no one and nothing holding you back in this world until you say it is. That's an assertion, and I stand in that assertion.
That's a beautiful way to look at it, Joe, because there's days that I look at people and I see the offense and people get so offended, and offense doesn't feel right to me in my own space. It doesn't feel right. And when, I'm learning how to speak the way you speak, and now empowering other people to look at it differently, to look at offense or not to be offended.
The interesting thing about this conversation, Janet, is it starts to really look at one of the things that I come up across, and all coaches come up across eventually with clients. I learned this in another teaching about the part of our mind that identifies itself as, say, the name and the body, whatever. For this conversation, we'll call that the ego. Mm-hmm. Okay, so your ego is the belief of what you think you are. For this conversation, one of the tenets of this ego is that it has a tremendous resistance to being wrong. Not in content, but also in context. It can't stand being wrong about what it knows or what it believes or what it holds to be true. The false idea of the self, right? So we run up against this commitment to being right. And there's a line in this book that I've read for many, many years, and it says, would you rather be right than happy? And the ego would rather be right over happy, and here's the kicker, at all costs. So the ego demands its righteousness, its right stand. It needs to be right in order to think that it is valuable and powerful. when I find that the most empowering times in my life is when I've recognized I have been wrong about something.
Mm-hmm.
And in that recognition, I'm able now to rewrite the ineffective way of thinking or the ineffective actions I had been taking. But I had to be willing to be wrong to have that new state of mind. I had to be willing to be wrong to even possibly join with my brother or sister or neighbor in, say, agreement or just understanding someone else's point of view without needing to be right over it. And that happens with ourselves in like when we come to a coach, there is a righteousness we all have to a certain degree that we want to be right about our beliefs, about with the way we are or the world is or my family is or the way that my boss is. And that's I'm just right about that, right? And you watch people dig their heels in and they don't want to shift that. We have to be able to effectively and be willing and honestly, vulnerably enough to be willing to look at maybe that's not so right and look at another point of view.
Right, because when you dig your heels in, that's usually when you need to shift, or
It can
there
be.
might be a possibility. There's opening up a possibility.
Yes,
of a shift.
Defense speaks of a lot of things. If you're in defense, if you're defending yourself, right? Well, I got to defend myself. Well, I ask the question: what are you defending? What is it that you need to defend rather than maybe open your listening to hearing a new possibility of looking at this? Because this defense is defending something that isn't necessarily valuable. Possibly. Let's take a look. And maybe looking at this through a new way or a new perspective might open up your listening to create joining. Defending, right? It creates separation. Because then there's a me and you. Mm-hmm. Well, we can have two totally different points of view on a subject, have a very intelligent, maybe even debate about maybe correct or incorrectness and effectiveness or ineffectiveness. But there becomes no separation in our conversation. There becomes no separation in our language. We're not on a side. I'm a this side and you're a that side. And then we somehow have to, try to make it work. You can't make it work when you're taking, quote, sides and defending your position. I encourage people to take stands, not a position. A position is rigid and fixed, and there's no possibility. But when you take a stand for what you believe, you're open to possibilities. In that, you create communication. And what is the root word of communication? Commune. To join. And we all say we want to join in this world and become one with each other and all kumbaya, but we defend ourselves and we position ourselves rather than maybe opening up your listening and listening to an alternative point of view, listening to another possible way that your coach might be introducing to you as a way of thinking, and then be willing to take a slight risk and apply it and see what's there for you. Yeah. You can always pull your thought back. You can always pull your behaviors back and change back, but try something new. Yeah. Take a risk.
Thank you, Joe. That was awesome. Oh my God, we used up all that time. Like I thought, wow, how are we going to fill this time? We could go on for days. I'm going to have you on another time because we could go on one more time.
Okay. Yeah. I'll support. Absolutely. As you can tell, I love talking about this stuff. And if one person is listening and got one nugget out of this and they applied that one nugget in their life, that fits my vision and my mission in my life. Thank you, Jennifer. So we just had a pop up there.
That's my buddy. That's my girl, Jennifer. That's my little pal.
Hello, Jennifer. Thank you.
She's my pal. Joe, I love this. I love this so much. Can you just tell everybody how to get in touch with you if they had a question for you or?
Oh, sure. Again, anything I've said today, first of all, let me say anything I've said today, anything that you might not agree with or just, you might have a problem with, just throw it away. Just throw it away. You don't have to write me a letter and tell me how bad and wrong I am and all that stuff. Save yourself the finger stroking, on the typewriter. It's okay. We can agree to disagree. But if there's something you want to expand on, there's something you want to take it deeper, you were interested in maybe working with me or anything like that, just send me an email. It's probably the best way to get a hold of me. It's manage my mindset, all one word, @gmail.com. Manage my mindset.
Yes. I love this so much, Joe. This was so juicy. was great. Thank you.
You're welcome. I do workshops and I do coaching and I do speaking engagements. I do consulting. I do all kinds of things. And I'm also known as the coach's coach. I coach a lot of coaches for the International Coaching Federation. I do coaching global. If you're interested in learning how to become a coach, like the passion and excitement that both Janet and I share, and that's something you want to go down a path and say, hey, I'd love to hear about what it is that you do. How do I become a certified coach or an experienced coach? I can help you in that realm as well.
Yeah, that's what you've done for me, Joe. I mean, I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for our working together. So I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on tonight.
My honor. Thank you for inviting me on. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you, everybody. Oh my gosh, we could go on forever. Joe and I could talk for days. The conversations we have for me are so meaningful. I said the word juicy. To me, it's like, it's the juice. It's the stuff that makes you think differently, change your mindset. For me, he's helped me so much, and I want to pay it forward and empower other people. So you're free to reach out to me as well. JanetDeBenedetto.com, CoachJanetD@gmail.com. And my Instagram is Janet DeBenedetto. You can reach out any of those ways. Thank you. You guys have a great night.